could be wrong. I could be right.
My guest in the garage here at the Cat Ranch in Highland Park is Willie Barcena. Multiple appearances on The Tonight Show, hour-long special on Comedy Central. Has been around a long time. And one of those, it's interesting that, like, I don't know your world and you don't know my world.
Right.
Like, that's the weirdest thing, is that there are people who listen to this show and they think they know everything about comedy, but just, there's a whole Latino world out there.
Right.
And it's huge.
Yeah, it is, man.
Now, how often do you play, like, all Latino audiences?
You know, it depends. It depends what city I'm in. You know, I've been around a while, and my, you know, as we were talking earlier, man, Mike, I don't really specifically write to cater to the Hispanic crowd. I mean, I'm proud of being Hispanic, but you know, I think you cut yourself short and you make yourself too one-dimensional. And you know, sometimes, man, when I'm looking at my bills, I go, man, maybe I should do you know what I mean? Maybe I should write more lowrider jokes and stuff. But,
yeah.
But you know what, man? Honestly, if I do, I know that if I did that, that I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Well, that's interesting, because, you know, we were talking in the kitchen there, that, you know, you are Mexican.
Right.
Your mom's an immigrant.
Right. I'm an immigrant, man. I snuck in. She snuck us in here. It's funny because you hear all these, stories of immigrants coming in and going through, the wilderness and doing all this, and right?
Yeah.
You know, my mom was so clever, dude.
Yeah.
My mom, the way she brought me and my sister in, she, paid this lawyer, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because right now it's current because it was going on in Arizona. You know, we got haircuts. I remember the day that we left, we got haircuts and we got brand new clothes, right?
Yeah.
And she paid this lawyer, some money, and he had a nice Cadillac. And to say that he was taking us to Disneyland. So that's all. The Border Patrol goes, "Where are you guys going?" Disneyland. And that's it, bro. And that was the end of that. Yeah.
You were in?
Yeah, well, I was in. Yeah, you know, my mom she's a thinker, dude. She said, "Well, why am I going to go through the hills where these kids might die and starve, but we could just dress them up and say you're going to Disneyland and see Mickey," you know? So, yeah.
And then you're in.
That's it.
And then your mom did all right.
She did real good, bro. I mean, I grew up as a kid. I grew up in Boyle Heights. My mom, you know, right when she got here, man, she was off and running. She had 3-4 jobs. I mean, and on top of those 3-4 jobs, she was going to school at night. She became an insurance agent. Within 7 years of being in this country, she bought houses, you know, all over.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And she, you know, with one of my teenage years, she took me to Australia. She took me to Copenhagen. She took me all over the country.
Just so you would see the world.
See the world. And she was, and she never, said, "Oh, okay, we're Mexican, woe is me," you know.
Yeah.
It was never that. It was always, she exposed me to different religions and different thoughts and just different things, man. And which is, you know, and I think the bulk of Hispanics are that.
Yeah.
Are that, but we don't see them because, you know what I mean? It's not, yeah, it's not sensational, you know,
right.
but if you really focus on the lowrider and the gangs and your mom made menudo and things like that, man, then people think, "Oh, wow, look, man.
It's all true."
That's who we are. No, man, we're deeper than that. It is so deep, you know, I mean, you can go to the wars, World War I and World War II and Korea and, you know, I mean, come on, I think you and I have similar likes. I don't know. We haven't talked, but I mean, the guy that I really look up to is Lenny Bruce.
Oh yeah.
You know, really like Lenny Bruce, and then obviously
Pryor,
Richard Pryor,
yeah.
Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
You know, those guys, man. Those guys that are willing to say what really happened.
That's right.
You know, look, man. Hollywood is the piece of pie for Latinos in showbiz.
Yeah.
Is a sliver, man. It's a very, very small piece.
Yeah.
Now what happens is Hollywood says, "Okay, all you comedians, you guys, here's your piece," you know, which it's almost see-through, you know, and it's been proven,
and it's stereotyped.
But you know, these guys are gonna fight and scratch and claw and I think do whatever it takes to become famous, man.
Right.
Because there's people. Come on, you know, you've been around a long time. I've been around a long time. My initial reason for being a comic was not to be famous, but it was to entertain, man. As corny as that sounds.
And tell the truth.
And
have the freedom of mind.
Yeah, man. And I figured if I did that, everything else is gonna fall in place. Not true, man. I didn't know that I was supposed to be doing MySpace. I didn't know that I was supposed to get in people's emails.
Or look at me, I'm working out of my garage. How the fuck?
Yeah.
All right, so basically what you're saying is that the competition is insane.
Yeah, and listen, man, they've done I saw this on one of those like 60 Minutes like a magazine TV show, like a 2020, where they show these everyday professionals, man, and they put them in a situation where they put them in a room where they had to literally fight for whatever situation they put them in.
Right.
And these are good, hardworking people, or blue collar and white collar and everything. And what the end result was that no matter who you are or how good you are, when your back's against the wall, you're an asshole.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Survival.
It's survival.
Mm-hmm.
When your survival kicks in, and I think this is what has happened to a lot of these comics. So, have they done bad stuff? Yeah, I think they do. Are they gonna come forward and say that they did? No, they never will, man. And who am I to say? Because I back in maybe 10 years ago, I would get on the air and say, yeah, this guy's a thief, and this guy's, and then I just ended up sounding like a bitter dude because I don't have the show. Do you know what I mean?
Patton Oswalt once said to me, and it was really genius, and he said it before he was famous, or we were years ago when we were sort of starting out. He said to me, "The truth is hack."
Right.
And it's pretty ingenious because, we're just comics and we live a life. And if we want to talk to people like people, it's a pretty short menu of shit that people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
We're not as evolved as we think we are.
Well, right. We're not as evolved. Yeah, and that's the comedy of it. It's like, my wife annoys me. I'm going broke. I hope I don't die. Fuck that guy. And that's it. What else is there?
Is there a God?
Yeah, exactly.
The older I get, man, I could care less about what happens to these guys as far as stealing and what they're doing. It was too much wasted energy in my part, man.
Yeah.
Cause I was the comedy police for a while. I was that guy. I was the guy who would go, hey man, come here. What the fuck? You shouldn't, that's not your bit. And this is, and then before you know it, a couple years go by when you should have been writing.
But you were friends with Carlos.
Well, I'll tell you, and I told you earlier, what I think happened to Carlos, man, is he never got into writing ever. He never got into writing. And I used to go over his house and I used to say, hey man, let's write. And then we wouldn't write. I mean, I would be there with my pen, my paper, like, come on, let's write. And he just would do other things. He was one of those guys that would love to sit in back of the comedy club and watch other comics. And what I think happens, man, is subconsciously, whether you're trying to do it or whether you're not trying to do it, you're gonna pick up material, man. Which is like, we all have similar experiences as far as, everybody has a girlfriend, right? Or a boyfriend, whatever, man.
Yeah.
Everybody has a relationship,
Yeah.
Everybody has a car.
Yeah.
But I think if you sit in back of a club and you stay there for hours and hours, and you do it on Friday and Saturday, and then, but you don't write during the week, I think you're bound to sound like another comic.
Yeah, but there's people that sound like other comics stylistically, and then there's topics. And I think what happens with people that have that kind of mind is that they'll hear a joke, and they'll like the joke, and then they start adding to the joke they hear. And within a few days, they can't see the source of the joke anymore in their head. Yeah. They can only see their angle on it. But like you're saying, it's somebody like Carlos who just, he just likes to blast. He likes to get up there and blast.
Okay, is he, okay, and I'll put this, is he a nice guy? He's not the nicest guy. I've known him forever. About 15, 18 years ago, I did a show with all these young comics. We were all young back then, 18, 19 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And it was like it was a Cinco de Mayo with all these Hispanic comics. And then I remember Carlos coming up to me and going, hey, I know why you did this. And I was doing it because I wanted to have a venue, man. I did it, and the place doesn't even no longer exist. It was called Carlos and Charlie's back then on Sunset.
Oh, yeah.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so I remember Carlos pulled me aside and he was like, I know why you're doing this, man. And I go, why am I doing this, Carlos? He goes, because you want to show everybody that out of all the Hispanic comedians, you're the best. He goes, well, you're not the best. I'm the best. What are you talking about, dude? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's that guy. And I wasn't raised like that, man. I mean, you know what it's funny because before I became a comic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I was a social worker, man.
Really?
Right down the street.
Over here?
Right down the street. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was a social worker because that's who I am.
There's a type of megalomaniacal personality.
Right.
That really, in the long run, they don't give a fuck
No, they
about
don't.
anybody as long as they're on top.
Yeah.
And they really don't.
No.
And I can't understand that completely. You know, that when, like, cause I can feel your heart, and like, and if I'm talking to some dude and he's sitting there going, man, I feel bad about it. You know, if someone feels bad about it.
You know, I don't give a crap, bro. Yeah, man.
But I think that's also part of the macho legacy of the Latin culture too, and I think that Carlos plays into that. I think that he wants to be king shit, and once he became king shit, he wanted to make sure everybody knew he was king shit, and he was going to do whatever he had to do to make sure people knew it and kept their place.
Oh yeah, man.
I mean,
yeah.
do you feel that?
You know what? When I think you might have something there because it does. Yeah. I think in the Latino. And I was victim to that, man. I was victim like, hey, man, I'm a man, and a man, you know, you better respect me and all that, which is just a bunch of bull, man. Which, you know, all it is being macho to me is just being weak.
Yeah.
You know, because it's real easy. It's like I always said, man. It's real easy to walk around with a pit bull or a bulldog and look mean.
Right.
You know, I always say I'm gonna see you walk around with a poodle and look mean. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really having some balls.
That's right.
So,
try to own that.
Yeah.
Well, I just got that feeling that, like, you know, after a certain point, that, you know, even with the idea that the stealing thing and all this with other comics is that, you know, once you reach a level of success, you know, if you don't have a conscience about, you know, what you've done to other people, you know, and I think a lot of these guys, you know, even when I talk to Robin, you know, they don't know they do it necessarily, but once they've done it, at the stature they're at, it's done.
Right.
There's no unfucking it. So in the long run, I guess what I'm learning, you know, from talking to you and in general is that, you know, we can absorb, the community can absorb this crazy shit.
Yeah.
The community, like, you know, because you don't seem to really have a beef with Carlos.
No, man.
I mean, it's like, whatever.
You know, yeah, the only thing I don't like is, I don't like when he's around when I'm working in material. and listen, bro, I have no problem, like I said, you know, hatred is wasted energy or anger and all that. But the manager right now at the Improv, the guy who runs the showroom on Melrose, he'll tell you, I was there about a year ago, and I have all my notes, right? All my new notes, all these new bits I'm working on.
Yeah.
And then I see Carlos walk in, and I go, hey, everybody, Carlos Mencia's here. And then everybody clapped. And I said, you guys want to see him? And everybody clapped, right? I said, Carlos, come up here.
And he got up?
Yeah, he got And then the manager goes, hey, I know why you did that, dude. I said, hey, dude, people love Carlos. You know?
Yeah. And that's a beautiful